Hello, how are you?
Doing great. And you?
Very well, thank
In
you.
foggy San Francisco town?
In foggy San Francisco, but you know, the fog feels like it's starting to lift a little bit.
Fantastic, fantastic. And what about you, Dave? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. You know, it's an interesting time for sure, but life goes on, and it's very boring at certain times, and definitely not very boring at other times. So.
Yeah. It's nice to see your faces. I miss being together with all you guys. I mean, I'm sure everybody's feeling the same way, but it's very lovely to have this opportunity. And I've been thinking back to this recording, all of this stuff for the Tanya Sea Dreams recording, and it feels like it was a really long time ago when we started recording this project.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to kind of remember some of the components of it and all the great parts that came along with it. Are there any memories that either of you have that are just right at the front of your brain? What about you, Oliver? Anything coming to you?
I remember the first recording that we did. I didn't do the second recording for the Tiny, but the first one, we were all decked out in our concert wear because we had to do some photographs and whatnot and some promotional stuff with Peter and with Jeff and whatnot. And so I remember us thinking to ourselves, oh, let's try not to have as many takes or as many redos or anything like that. And so it really snapped us into focus about making sure that we were all kind of in the same place, that we were all in the music, that we were listening to what Peter was saying, that we were listening to what Jeff was saying. And it just made for a wonderful experience where we could just be with the music at that one point and you know, get and to do all this, the camera work and then get out of the monkey clothes. So it was kind of, I remember that because it was just a beautiful day outside and we just wanted to get out and it was great. It was a wonderful experience.
I do remember that now that you mention it. That's a great point. What about you, Dave? Any thoughts about that?
I remember the day of the concert and the recording being a very long day. I mean, like, so obviously the normal schedule with the rehearsals and the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then performance, and then to have such a high intensity activity after that was like almost overwhelming. But it's at the same time kind of, you know, as a singer and performer, you just kind of know that's something you have to be prepared for and that you find the energy to go on, and that, you know, being tired kind of forces you to work a little bit harder and then maybe you be more intentional about the product that you're creating. So I remember it being a very rewarding experience, and I remember it passing very quickly. So those few hours that we spent on that recording were just like zoomed right by. So
yeah, they always do. It's just like, could we do one more take? No, we don't have time for one more take. So that's the take we're taking. The thing that I've been remembering is before we ever started recording, when Peter first came and he was working on the commission part with us, like just coming to hear our voices and learn about us and just figure it out. And anytime in a room with Peter Tanya, or even actually with him all the way across the country, but talking to us over the phone or however we did this, always feels so sparkly. He's such a loving, dynamic person. And I'm really always taken by how his personality can come all the way across the country, even when he's talking on the cell phone, FaceTiming with us as we're recording. So that's one thing that I remembered. And then the other thing, I remember him coming over and talking to us in the alto section. I presume he did it for your sections too, just talking about like, well, how low can you sing? And what is your highest note? And it's so incredible that someone is writing a piece of music for me to sing. Like, it kind of made me think of, you know, when you think of Mozart or Beethoven or Handel or writing these duets or pieces for, you wonder who the women were that he was writing them for. And then I'm thinking, oh, wow, I was one of those people that this piece was composed for. And that's just such a special feeling. I really am grateful for that feeling.
Well, if there's one thing that has made this ensemble really special is the relationship that we have with a number of the composers get a chance to work with us. Peter Tanya is certainly one of them, but I think of Zachary Wadsworth in the Far West. I think of Joby Talbot when he came to talk to us about The Path of Miracles. You know, that relationship that we have and being able to understand their vision for what the music is going to represent, what we should be striving for in this certain moment, or how we should be affecting our voices or what we sing at a certain time. It's been a wonderful collaborative process with each of those composers, and with Peter's music especially. He seems to know the voice really well and get a sense of what your limits are, what may be too much, and how all of those elements can come to make sure that his music sings as well as it does.
For sure.
And I think, you know, the whole idea of relationship and getting to work with a composer, like it's of course it's wonderful to rehearse and perform and record a great piece of music, but there's just a whole other level to that experience when you have the opportunity to work with a composer and, you know, to really get close to them in person and understand the intricate details of what they were thinking when they created, you know, a certain sound or a certain idea. And I think about how evocative Peter's piece was, and just how, you know, you would never think of those things, or I would never think of those things, but you know, in his own unique way, in his own unique voice, his musical voice, and, you know, his interpersonal voice, we got the opportunity to experience that, which was a really great experience. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I've got to say, my relationship with Peter has gone back a long way. I mean, he used to be a director in a children's choir that I used to sing in. So he was back in Calgary way back in the late 1980s. And a lot of people remember him from that tenure while he was here. So to compare that experience, you know, singing some of his works that he wrote for our choir back then to what he was doing with Luminous Voices more recently, it's a wonderful progression to see how his compositional voice has matured and really reaches out to people. And it was such a wonderful pleasure to be able to go back to his music again and to have that experience.
Yeah, for sure. Because Oliver, you and I were involved in that same organization. And yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, we go back, it goes back a long, long time. The other thing that I love about having a commission, being able to sing a commission, is watching the composer's face during the first time we sing it. It's like watching them see their child for the first time, I feel like. And it's being involved in the birth of this piece it's just an experience that is such a gift, and not very many people get to do it. And it's just amazing to have that opportunity.
I remember when he came to talk to us, I think we were at the Errata or the Mamdani Opera Center when we had that kind of first go through with him. And I just remember him sitting on that stool, just kind of listening to us work with Tim. And we finished one section of it, and he just kind of, wow, you know, like, and just that epiphany of, this is how this music is supposed to sound. It's one thing to hear it in your head. And Dave, you can appreciate this because you, as a composer, know what it's like to hear what you think you hear in your head or on your keyboard, and then to have actual voices give life to it. The look on his face was just, I like to think it was pure joy.
Yeah.
You know, like he certainly commented on just how, wow, I mean, you guys can sing. And it was just a wonderful testament to the relationship that we have with him, which is great.
It's so wonderful to be part of a process in which, you know, music is still alive. To, you know, like the whole idea of commissioning and performing and recording a new work and rehearsing a new work is, it's, you know, it brings a sense of the vitalness of music to the whole idea, you know, constant creation of something new and trying out different things, and that, like, that experience in and of itself is really rewarding. Everything else aside, you know, and then you have a wonderful person to work with and wonderful music on top of that, and it just becomes better. But just the whole newness and the cycle of ever creating new things is pretty neat to be part of.
We're very lucky, very, very lucky. So what's going on with you guys, Dave? How have you been working on any special projects or anything over this time of reflection?
Well, most of my musical engagement has been kind of witnessing and watching. I haven't done too much myself, although I've contemplated maybe arranging and recording some pop songs just for the heck of it. Maybe that will yet come, but I've kind of mostly been focused on other things. What about you folks?
Well, you know, work has been pretty busy. I mean, the company I work for ATCO, and we've been doing a lot of work with Indigenous communities as well as with various levels of government as a result of COVID-19. So thankfully, we've been keeping busy that way. But that said, you know, it's a lot of work that sometimes I want to get away from, and I turn to music to do that. And I've been inspired by a lot of different projects and different artists online that that have found a way to make our art form, choral singing, operatic singing, you know, all of that kind of singing, so much more vital. And, you know, I've found that the world has been looking to the arts for relief of, you know, from all of the bad news or all of the challenging time that we are experiencing right now. And that's no accident. And to see a number of colleagues really inspiring their audiences with ways to keep their music, their form of music alive has been wonderful. I mean, I've done a couple of virtual choir projects. I organized one myself that I'm kind of putting the final touches on, which is great. Just with some singer friends that I knew up in Edmonton and some here in Calgary, which is going to be a lot of fun to do. You know, a good friend of mine who just started teaching voice. He's put together this wonderful operatic series where, you know, some fantastic Canadian operatic talent have been putting together some virtual concerts and so it's been wonderful to see that kind of come to fruition, and hopefully I'll get to be involved in some of those, and really just, you know, trying to better my own skills. You know, I continue to work online with a number of coaches. You know, one of them is up in Edmonton, and we've been working on some technique, but I've just joined this new group that really looks at operatic scores, and not just for the music, but really for the poetry, and truly understanding what it is that we're talking about, so that we live and breathe the lyrics that much more intensely. So, you know, trying to find ways to make sure that the skills stay sharp, and more than anything, trying to find ways to collaborate with others that I think are looking to reach out and want to find ways to collaborate and find new and interesting ways to keep the art form alive. Because I think that I would get pretty bored and pretty depressed if I were to just kind of sit around and watch the rest of the world go by. I really want to be a part of making sure that our art form remains vital, and that people don't forget that the power of the human voice is definitely something to behold. I think that is a message that rings true whether or not you're singing in a choir or not. There is true power in the voice, and we want to make sure that doesn't get forgotten.
For sure. Yeah.
What about you? What's keeping you busy?
Well, I mean, I always have worked from home, so COVID hasn't really affected that with my work that I do for parenting. I teach Tai Chi as well, and my Tai Chi classes, instead of being in community centers, have moved on to Zoom. So that's been actually very fulfilling, because a lot of people from outside of Calgary that I know that have always wanted to come to one of my classes can now come to the online classes. So that's been really fun. And then my daughter and I have been singing together. We kind of found all the old children's choir music and started singing something, because I just want that opportunity to harmonize with people. I have been singing along with so many recordings, just harmonizing, just for the opportunity to hear and feel what that feels like. So that's been really fun. Maya and I have been enjoying that. And also, I don't know if you know this, but I took up the cello in September.
Oh, cool.
Beth Root Sandvos is teaching me. Bless her, because I'm sure that I don't know that I'm the best student, but it's been a really interesting challenge. And I finally feel like, 10 months into this, that I'm actually making some music instead of some scritchy, scratchy, ugly sounds. So that is great and very fulfilling, because I feel like I've been, persevering. And yesterday when I sat down to practice, I thought, I am making music here for the first time. So absolutely. Yeah, it's a real brain challenge, that process. But I always said that when I turn, in my 50s, I was going to play the cello. So I thought, better get started. And so it's really fun. I'm having a blast.
Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to have. Myself, I mean, to try to make sure that I stay, somewhat fit and whatnot, I actually joined this virtual exercise challenge, and my challenge is the walk along the Camino de Santiago.
Oh wow.
So I started in the south of France, and every day I log how many kilometers I walk, and I go virtually along this map on, you know, where exactly I end up. I'm about at Roncesvalles, so
Wow.
which is really cool. And I got this little postcard in my email box saying, "You're almost there. Keep going. You have another 14 kilometers to go," or something like that. So it's a nice way for me to kind of get outside the house and walk around, sometimes with the dog, sometimes not, but always being mindful that, you know, we have to take care of our mind and our body as well, and having the path of miracles kind of in the background, you know, going along that path is just, it's just a wonderful little project. And from what I understand, it's going to take me right until Labor Day. So based on being able to walk 8 or 9 kilometers a day. So
that's really
just a fun little project.
Wish I'd engaged in something like that. I usually take 90-minute walks every day, so I would have been there in no time.
Oh my gosh, you would be perfect for it. If you do them twice a day, you'd be there at like the beginning of August.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. But you know, it's just a nice way for me to enjoy the morning. I usually go in the morning at like 6:30 or something like that.
Yeah, that's when we walk too.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful time to just kind of, you know, be with yourself and just enjoy the experience and enjoy nature, and then sit down at your computer for 6 or 8 hours a day and then try to go from there. So yeah.
Right. Well, that's great. It's so nice to hear what you guys are up to, and I cannot wait until we can see each other in person. But super to talk with you, and stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.
You too.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Bye.